All right, hello, friends, family, lovers, enemies. I want to talk about fairies and like how to communicate. Well, I'm not trying to say how you should communicate with them, but I want to talk about the ways in which we communicate with fairies. Okay, so this is just all based on what I have found in my practice. So I'm always wanting to learn more. So this is really just my theory currently about fairies. Yeah, let's start there. So I feel like one of the first things I really remember learning about fairies was, or I think one of the most important things I feel that I've learned about fairies is there are rules to engagement with fairies. Like, they will always speak in riddles and illusions, and so you have to be very careful in what you say to them. And I know there's like lists of rules out there from, different cultures, and I think that's important. I would never want to disregard those lists of rules, but I do think those rules are also contextual based on like the time period that they were taking place in. And so now in like the modern age, when you're engaging with fairies, like there's been so much knowledge that's been lost that you do sort of just have to go at it as best you can, and like consequences be damned. So I feel for myself, when engaging with spirits and fairies, like I might say the wrong thing, but I try to show up with a consistency of respect for the spirit. Usually, like, earth spirits, like tree spirits, it's just like you show up consistently, maybe not perfectly, and I do think, I don't know, I feel like that's how you make friends in the real world. And so like I feel that is also how you could become friends with fairies. The next thing I want to say about fairies is that they are usually compared to, like, I feel like on the spectrum of angels and demons, like fairies are typically considered demons, like demonic entities. I want to make another side note about why fairies are always connected to demons. And so when you're talking angels versus demons, I believe in some ways you're also talking like the physical versus the spiritual world, the material versus the spiritual world. And demons are more of that denser matter. And angels are more of that like spiritual, energetic matter. So it feels like this is possibly a reason why a lot of like the old like pagan earth spirits were considered demonic, is because like those spirits were rooted to like a physical place, like a tree or a shrine or a spring, and so the physical place was revered, and that eventually was thought to be, revering worldly things. It's like connected to revering worldly things because you're seemingly worshiping a place, a tree, or a statue, when really like that place or that statue is housing the spirit. It's a representation in your own psyche to house the spirit. And it just, the fairies are earth, they're you know, they're of the earth, like they are from here, they aren't cosmic, they are of the world, and so they get associated with that like material plane demonic energy. I really want to parse this out because it's a very complex subject, and it's not, I personally don't believe it's black and white like that, like anything else. And it's hard because like the modern society that I grew up in, it's like everything is labeled good or bad. There aren't things that fall outside of being good for you or bad for you, and that becomes really confusing and problematic because that's not nuanced. And so it's the same with fairies. Calling fairies demons, I mean, it's right and it's wrong. There's always like a grain of truth. So with demons, as I understand them, demons are sort of like torturous spirit guides in hell or like on earth. They're going to like play tricks on you and confound you and like make you suffer because you believed one thing when another was actually true. And like in the context of hell, like demons are meant to punish you for your sins. Are supposed to make you suffer, and they're casting that illusion of suffering onto you by making you feel trapped, you know, trapped in hell or trapped on earth. That's a very specific way of looking at what fairies can do and what they are doing to us. Because really, sometimes when we are suffering in life, it's because of lessons we need to internalize, and sometimes the fairies are really good for that, like making you face the consequences of your actions. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean like you did wrong and you deserve to be punished, but it's just like, for example, when you're dealing with friend relationships, people you really care about, and they get on your nerves, like, and you need to confront them about that, like, it can be difficult to hear that someone has a problem with you, and that will trigger suffering, anxiety, depression, and like, depending on, you know, it's a lesson to overcome if you want to stay connected to someone. It's a lesson to overcome, like, being able to take criticism, you know. Fairies, because they're so blunt, I'll go back to like how fairies speak to each other. Because they are so blunt in a way, like I believe that fairies speak so clearly that it seems like an illusion to us, because the way that their world is set up is, you know, it's all about making that deal, making that exchange, agreeing upon terms, and like signing contracts to agree to an exchange. And like signing contracts, sometimes you don't even realize when you're signing contracts with people. Like, people have expectations of you, and they see you do certain things, and in their mind they believe this person is, you know, signed a contract with me to ensure that I, you know, get this thing from them. And that is sort of how fairies deal with one another. And it can be it's such a culture and a magic system of its own that it takes a lot of practice navigating, like, how to wheel and deal with people, like how to speak and get things that you want. Yeah. And so the fairies can be great teachers of this concept. Like, you can approach a fairy, like a tree spirit or a nature spirit, or even a dark spirit that is really like haunting you, and you can approach it with respect and reverence. When you deal with it, at first you probably will make mistakes, and say things that the fairy is not okay with. But if you know your path and your journey, you can continue down that line of respecting that spirit and establish a trust between the two of you. This is like how I really feel like this is how you grow as a person, because it's not just fairies that really act like this. It's like the demons that we hold inside of us as our past traumas. And I want to believe that like you can approach those demons of depression with reverence. Like, that's like self-reverence, where you respect what you're going through and you don't make a judgment about it, and you earn that trust of that spirit, so that like you can make a deal that like it will no longer like haunt you, because you built a relationship with it, you built a friendship with it. Like, treating your demons with mercy is really like treating yourself with mercy. I believe they're the same, sort of the same thing. For my brain, it's like, if I can approach certain aspects of myself that I dislike with mercy, I can come to agreements with those spirits, those demons, and turn them into angels. Yeah, I feel like that's just some thoughts I'm having about fairies. I could talk about fairies for, hours and hours. I think what I'm finding with these videos is just like, it's like, I don't know, just what are my thoughts currently? And like, I'm always trying to expand on any idea I bring up. There's always more to say. Yeah, so that's really all I have for now. Definitely will have more in the future, but thank you all for listening, and have a beautiful day.